Hello and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten, and with me every week is Leo Sun. Leo, how you doing?
I am doing as good as you can assume I would be doing after a 3-game losing streak. I'm not gonna lie, Ryan. It's a little bit out of my comfort level because I feel like every time I'm potting with you, we're on a winning streak, and this time I'm finally on the other side of it. So maybe my lucky slides weren't coming in, but
Yeah,
I'm
well,
hanging in
usually
there.
when I bring other people on, it's been the opposite, where I'm bringing people on at the low point. So I guess it's a little taste of our own medicine for you here.
Yeah, that means you better get Travis on later this week because if we're playing like opposite week today, that means the Wolves are hopefully have rattled off a couple wins by the time you have him back on. But yeah, I mean, morale's a bit low right now. Obviously, you look around social media, you look around in the locker room, the post game quotes. There's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of uh, you know the woe is us, right? This is it. It's over. We're never gonna be able to do it. So, I have a little rant,
Sure.
Ryan, if I may, that I want to go on, yeah, about kind of what fanning is to me. And I mean fanning as in being a fan of a sports team, a fan of a sport and enjoying it. And I will say this with the footnote that I'm not trying to tell anyone how to fan. People can watch however they want. For some people, watching basketball, especially Timberwolves basketball, that's their way of like, all right, I'm angry. I need to get rid of my stress and anger some way. So I'm gonna direct it at this team, right, instead of at someone else or something else in their life. And so, for me, I've been a diehard since 2002, and so I was just an early teenager at that point. And the Wolves, since 2002, have been serious contenders for 2 of 23 seasons. So Ryan, that's 8.7% of the time since I've been following the team that they've actually been contending for a championship. So that means the remaining 91.3% of the time, which is more than half my life, the Wolves have really bounced between being either the joke of the league or like young and promising, but not quite productive and contending yet, right? So during those times is what created the Canis Hoopus community that you and I are a part of, that a lot of Wolves fans are a part of, and many of these people I've met in real life, and I built real relationships with them. And that happened during the really down, the bottom of the league standings days. And we didn't bond over, well, how do we contend with Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio? We didn't bond over like, all right, how is Johnny Flynn and Derek Woolen, how are they all going to coalesce into the future, right? We bonded over cool accomplishments, like, man, did you see all those double doubles that Kevin Love got? You got a 30-30 game, or wow, look at those cool passes by Ricky Rubio. That's what we bonded over. So at one point, or for a long time, being a Timberwolves fans was doing that. And so, you know, the the point what is the point of following your favorite sports team or your favorite sport, right? Is it that one day they win a championship? I mean, for some of you listeners, and maybe for you, right? Maybe that's the ultimate goal. I only follow them because I hope one day they'll win a championship, and that's fair. That's the ultimate goal of the team. And like I said, I'm not going to tell you how to fan, but I will tell you that the way that I fan is I enjoy the good times. And you can despair in some of the tough times, which is often for the Timberwolves, but also have fun during the ride. There's enough that's wrong and depressing with their society and world right now, whether it's politics, genocides, global warming. There's so many things that are outside of our control that's way bigger than basketball. And at some point, I can't and I won't allow being a sports fan become one of those things where it's just like, all right, this is just completely like ruining and depressing my life. So, I'll end with this. Like, of course, I've loved the 2004 and 2024 seasons. Those are great. The KG MVP year, and then obviously last season. Those are great. But when the Wolves are showing us that they might not be contending immediately, like right now, I can find solace knowing that we're in a better spot than 91% of the time that the Wolves haven't even been playing competitive basketball. And I understand the frustration with the whole, but we could have contended again this year had we not traded Cat. But like, I refuse to allow myself to become one of those bandwagon fans or people who only root for the front runners of big market teams, because I don't believe in the privilege of we're supposed to be contending. It might be 2044, another 20 years before we're contending again. And that might be a little sad. But until then, I'm going to have fun watching Ant do cool stuff. I'm going to get pumped up about Josh Minot, about Leonard Miller's potential. Like, I'll still get frustrated during games, but I'm not going to allow this to ruin my life. And so, yeah, that's my rant about fanning. That's just me. I don't know, Ryan, for you, do you feel similarly? Are you more of a championship or bust? How do you enjoy watching sports, or the Wolves?
I'm definitely not championship or bust, because like a season like last year is like so much fun, and even them, like, to me, them each, like, thing is different. Like, them making the Western Conference Finals was fun in and of itself, and them losing to the Mavericks was stunk in and of itself. And sure, like, if they had gone on and made the finals, then the Denver series, like, gains had increased. Like, it makes it even more fun in retrospect, and a little bit less fun now. But like, the Game 7 memory I had going to Phoenix and being in those games and to watching them sweep out that series, like, those were fun in and of themselves. So I'm definitely not a championship or bust. Like, the play-in game, the Pet Bev on the table game was fun. Like, that. Those are the type of things I follow sports in the Wolves for. And obviously, like, I want a championship as much as anyone. Trust me, I do. Men's sports wise, Minnesota sports has not given us anything. Again, men's wise, since I've been alive, 91 with the Twins, and so, like, that's people 35 and under weren't like, so 91, you're 30, 33 when you were born the same year the Twins won the World Series. So you don't have any positive or championship sports memories in, like, if you're 36 and under. So we're approaching anyone 40 and under doesn't remember the 91 World Series. So to me, like, if you're championship or bust, you're signing up for being miserable. And why is this something you enjoy? Kind of to your point earlier, if there's plenty of things in the world that can frustrate you more than sports can. But I think, and so, like, to your point, I think a lot of the negativity on social media and, like, the things I don't like are, like, almost the conspiracy theories about why this or that is happening, or just like coming down on the beat reporters. I don't see it because I'm not as, like, big on Twitter as obviously some of the main beat writers are, but, like, they clearly get frustrated by some of the things they received. 2 years ago, you could tell that they were getting frustrated, and last year, I'm sure they didn't receive that because they were winning. But, like, it's just like, why didn't you ask Finch this question? Oh my God, trust me. I know I asked them. Like, I remember I sometimes ask him, like, why didn't you play this person down the stretch? Why didn't I get, like, I'm like, we're asking him the same questions, and obviously we'll talk about that aspect of it. But, like, the negativity on social media, and honestly mostly on Twitter, Blue Sky is a lot different tone and vibe. But I think on the flip side, though, the frustration makes sense, in the sense of, I think we thought we were done with this. We thought we were above it, and, like,
Sure.
And maybe we still are. If the like you said, if the floor is 500, like, we're doing way better than. I know. I remember the Pat Bev year. I remember I was so pumped when they beat Indiana. See, I'm looking up the exact. They beat Indiana to go to 10-8 on the season, and I just thought that was, like, we are above 500 in, like, not like a like, this was cool. And I'm just like, they immediately lost, like, a bunch in a row. But, like, it was fun to, like, just have a not garbage team. So, like, to your point, the Wolves are
right.
We'll debate on whether, like, the future of this team, the champ, but, like, it's hard unless they really piss off Anthony Edwards and he requested a trade, which, by everything I've seen and everything people have seen, that we're just not close to that point. This team is going to continue to be fun and good, but I do understand the frustration, and certainly we both have felt it this year. It's like, we were supposed to be done with this. And, like, as you talk about being a fan, I think the thing that sucks about trading Cat, just even the on-court basketball side of stuff, is, like, you get attached to people, and especially when you have the best season we've had in recent memories, to, like, let that go for what is seeming like mostly financial reasons, and then the other half of it, on-court reasons, have just not worked out. That just is really tough to swallow. So I don't like dealing with the Twins, and they cut payroll. They trust me, the Twins are even more frustrating than the Wolves are. I promise you that. The Twins cut payroll after their best season. They hadn't won a playoff series in 20 plus years, and they finally did, and then cut payroll. So, and a lot of, like, Twin staffers, I don't know exactly who, but, like, we're frustrated about, like, fan morale around the team. And it's just like, to a certain extent, you get what you pay for, or you get, like, the fan up and down. It's pretty much linear with winning. And and like spending, because fans don't like when you don't spend on the team. And so like to a certain extent with the Wolves, I kind of get it. Like if someone were to say to me, why are fans so down? I'd be like, because you traded one of the best players from the Western Conference Finals team, and now the team stinks. Like
Right.
so it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I get both sides of it, but like in general, I think there's been a little bit too much over the top of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I agree with all your points. I appreciate like your Minnesota perspective of it. Obviously, the Twins and the Vikings, as we're recording this, we don't need to get into that. They played tonight, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just interesting. Even like on social medias, I've kind of seen people. There's been a lot of people and people that I consider like, oh, we're internet friends. You know, we talk about the Wolves and we've had a lot of laughs. Trying to convince me that like this is the worst thing ever, and like this is not the this is a bad thing. And again, I'm 100% with you. There's not very many people that are bigger cat like loyalists than I am, and so I totally understand that. And I am frustrated by it. I'm not gonna lie that like, oh, I watch every game with like a big smile on my face all the time. I am muttering obscenities every time something annoying happens, or every time Glenn Taylor kind of sticks his finger in there and does some things that he doesn't need to be doing with the team. And so, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know, fans will get frustrated, and that's okay. But I just will not allow that to become another thing for me, where it's like I'm watching this because I want to. This is supposed to be, I mean, you and I, we cover it, you know, on the side. And, you know, I wouldn't call this our profession, but it is something that, you know, we're somewhat vested in. But at the same time, it is something we choose to do, right? Right. I mean, neither of us have to be here. We don't have to pod. We don't have to cover the team. You know, we have other things that we could be doing, but we choose to do it. And so with us choosing to be here, like, I'd rather choose on the side of, look, like, yes, it's not great right now. We'll talk about it soon. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. And I hope everyone can just kind of take a step back and use a wider lens on this, you know, in all aspects. And I guarantee you, it's not more fun getting more pissed off about the team than it is trying to let it go and be like, you know what,
Yeah, I
it could be
think
worse.
about like
So,
what would you rather have? And to me, there's like a difference between covering the team like we do, or like even people that cover the team as their primary job do, and like fans. Like obviously, I think there's like easy to cover, which is a team like last year, which is a team like 2 years ago where they're exceeding expectations, and then there's teams that are hard to cover like this one, or even like the Jimmy Butler team is probably hard to cover in a certain, just with a lot of different I don't, well, I don't even know how to finish that sentence. Wolves fans know what I'm talking about. But then, so like, I think, and that matches up with like the favorite type of seasons. But I kind of gravitate towards like, I just want my team to win, and like, there's a certain part of
sure.
me that like I'll take a season like this. Oh, it's hard to say. If they turn this around, I would prefer a season like this where like they are clearly playing below their talent level. I'd rather have a season like that than a season where at a similar win output, like to me, this is like the floor of what this team should be playing at, and they should be playing better. Where like a team like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they the season that ended the Pat Bev game and the Pat Bev year was like the ceiling of what that team could
Yep.
play. And I think like for me personally, I kind of tend to be, I almost embrace the team that is at its floor, because like they have a ceiling. Like this team, like the ceiling of that Pat Bev team was winning that Memphis series, and they weren't going. They obviously they weren't good enough to do that, but like a second round was like the ceiling of that team. To me, this team has the pieces to make a Western Conference Finals run again if they, it's seeming like if they can avoid OKC in their bracket. Like this team
Right.
has a higher ceiling, and so like that's more intriguing to me. But like it's certainly easier to root for. I'm almost maybe a tanking team that has like not a full on tanking team, because like if you go read some of the Jazz stuff or even the Portland stuff, like I don't think their fans are happy with what's going on. But like, or a team that we saw last night, like a team like Detroit, where I mean that is it's seemingly like a play-in team that can be the 7 or 8 seed in a soft conference, a top-loaded conference like these. Like, I'm sure their fans are having fun, but like, would you rather be a Pistons fans right now or a Wolves fan? Because I'm taking the Wolves.
Right. So there's so many ways we can get into it, and so I think we've gone pretty deep into this, and so I think we got at least one game to talk about today, and so I'm ready to hop into that, and as we kind
Hey,
of
I'm
move
good.
forward
I'm
here.
good talking, like zooming out 10,000 feet instead of talking about the minutia of this Pistons game.
Oh yeah, that's a new pod. That's a new pod, right? Where we just talk about something other than the Wolves shitting the bed.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean we can talk about the Vikings if you. Actually, I don't. I don't want to do that. I will. We'll just fail on fourth down like the Vikings did all night. But yeah, we can jump into
nice.
to Howl or Foul. The first one we got down here. The Wolves are on a 3-game losing streak again. Is it their fourth 3-game losing streak of the season? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Again, comparing them to last year, they had a grand total of 0 3-game losing streaks in the regular season, and I guess ironically had one in the Denver series. So that's fun. But it's their fourth 3-game losing streak of the season, and it's just clear like something is again or still not quite right with this team. And so the first question is, Howl or Foul? The Wolves need to make a significant trade, either now or more likely in like a month from now, closer to the deadline.
I am going kind of against the grain, and I'm saying foul on this. And like I mentioned earlier, as we're watching these games, we're watching Julius Randle kind of play the way that he plays, and I'm getting frustrated as well too watching these games. And so I think that the team could be better with like different personnel on the team, but I don't think asking for another reset come February is like the right way to go. And unless there's a lopsided offer that presents itself, like Steph Curry's on the block or Giannis on the block, yes, let's do it. But outside of that, I mean, look at who's available. I mean, I think at first we look at maybe the Jazz. They have a lot of potential pieces that could help in the short term. But that said, I mean, I don't think that resetting things. Be like, all right, okay, now it's February. We have these like 2 new pieces here, and now Julius Randle's gone or whoever's gone, and now we're gonna take another month or so to kind of integrate and figure it out. I think because of how competitive the West is, even the Wolves are on a 3-game losing streak, we're still within striking distance of making it out of the play-in. And I think that reset and how much time it's going to take to gel is really going to submarine their possibility of maybe even not even getting out of maybe like the 9-10 game or something like that. And so, I think having to figure it out with the new pieces in the second half of the season will only hurt our chances. Now, I do think, yes, a trade needs to happen or personnel needs to change at some point. I just don't know that with how much we've struggled, we don't have that freedom right now and the losses to be able to use to kind of rebuild there. So I'm saying foul on that. I do agree that, yes, we need personnel, but not necessarily a significant trade by February.
Yeah, I don't know about need. Need is probably like a strong word, but I'm going to say Howl on. I would look into trading Randall. To me, that just seems like an obvious trade. Cam Johnson would be a person you'd look at. Isaiah Stewart on Detroit is someone you could look at. There's a lot of different. The second apron rules make it really tough. I'm just more thinking that the longer we sit with this team, even if I do think that they can turn it around and be like a solid playoff team and in a Western Conference that honestly after the Thunder, nothing really, they haven't played Memphis yet. So that's like always my caveat with look, I don't get to watch every team every night. So I'd like to see them play Memphis and see what that looks like. But like there aren't any teams that scare me in the Western Conference aside from OKC.
Yeah.
And so you could go on a run to like a Western Conference Finals, like I said. Obviously, Memphis and Houston, like these teams are playing better than the Wolves right now, and so I'm sure opposing fan bases, if they're listening to this, would be like, "What are you talking about? Your team sucks." I don't disagree with that, but like the more we get down to like, it is just really difficult to see, even at this team firing on all cylinders, how they could beat a team like OKC, Boston, or really any team, any of those 3, Boston, New York, and Cleveland. All 3 of those teams, whoever comes out of the East, I would be shocked if it was not one of those 3. But like, it just seems so impossible that they could beat like those 2 of those teams back to back to win a title. So the more I kind of let go of that idea, the more I think you got to plan for next year. And I don't think you need to like totally punt on this year, but like make a trade that puts you in a better spot for next year. And maybe there isn't one. Maybe the best move is to let Randall's contract expire and you re-sign Nas and Nikhil and go from there. But if there is a it's reminding me a lot of the D'Lo situation, and it stinks to be back in that kind of area 2 years ago. But if there's some sort of Mike Conley for or D'Lo for Mike Conley and Naw trade, if that's out there, that'd be ideal. I just think a bigger like they just got to change something, man. Something's got to change because like this shit ain't working.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, I think that my biggest fear with the whole need to make a trade is that if this is like Tim Connolly or Chris Finch should come together and like like this is like actively hurting Ant, and the chances of him like pulling I mean it's too early in his contract for him to pull anything like that, but to really be like, you know what, I'm out of here, I can't deal with this. Like if it's really hurting Ant to that extent, then yeah, I mean I think yes, there needs to be a significant shake up. But yeah, it's just tough because I think that we are just in a tough spot right now, and maybe letting Randall walk at the end is the right thing to do. But yeah, I listened to you and Andrew talk about this in the last episode. It's like, we'll save and create enough money for us to sign both Nas and Nikhil in the offseason with Randall expiring, right? It's like hard to say, but anywho, either way, I would be okay either way with it.
Yeah, I just think the problem with letting Julius walk is that it makes the optics of the Cat trade even worse because it's just like,
sure,
which I don't know, I it's such like an I don't want to keep doing the Cat the Cat trade revisionist history because to be honest, like how this season has played out, I know this is going to sound counterintuitive. How this season has played out makes the idea of trading Cat in a vacuum better, in the sense that the reasoning to keep Cat would be that you think this team or the version of this team with Cat on it was good enough to win the title. And how this has played out, or at least make the finals, but how this has played out, the issues run so much deeper than if Cat was here. It would help. They'd have they would have a couple more wins, but like everything that like they struggled with last year, they're struggling with worse this year. And so like the stuff like Mike Conley not playing as well, Rudy Gobert not playing as well, Jaden McDaniels not playing as well, Cat doesn't fix all of that. So if they were in this spot with Cat on the roster and his contract, they would just be so hamstrung financially. And so that idea makes sense even more to trade Cat. The problem is you still needed to have a good return for Cat. And I guess the jury's still out because honestly, the past week, Randall has been far from the biggest problem, and DiVincenzo's starting to play better. So, like, I guess in the immediate short term, it's been fine. But yeah, I don't want to do the Cat revisionist history every single pod because
Hey, that was your resolution for the Canis Hoopus roundtable.
Pretty much.
let last season.
Let it go. Like,
so no, I got you.
I mean, or at least save it for the off season because, like, I guess. Again, bigger picture. I'm just tired of having these gigantic trades that just like have an anchor on everything. Like a while back, it was Wiggins for D'Lo when the Warriors had that lottery pick, and it became Kuminga. A couple years ago, it was Gobert, and then it was. I mean, there was a brief like D'Lo for Mike Conley. Like, was that a good idea? Whoops, that was a fantastic trade. And then obviously now the Cat trade is like a big thing. And to be honest, the Dillingham trade will probably loom if they're not able to work him, if he's not a quality player, because that's that's a pick and a swap out the door. But yeah, it's a lot. So we can move on to the most recent game where Anthony Edwards scored 53 points. He was fantastic in every way offensively, just a masterclass. And the Wolves got blown up by Detroit, which is just like a complete flip from what happened against Boston, where Ant did not have a good game, was the only person that on the entire roster that did not shoot well. and they play fairly well against Boston, kind of the same story we've had, just can't quite get over the hump, which against teams like Boston and OKC, you can kind of live with. They played well enough. I don't know. I wasn't too frustrated by any of those losses. But against Boston, the key quote that came out after the game from Anthony Edwards, Jace Frederick asked him about the third quarter where the Wolves scored 34 points. And this Boston game was like one of the best offensive games the Wolves have had all year. Jace Frederick asked him in the locker room. In the third quarter, he took one shot, had 5 assists, scored 34 points. Is that the way forward? As in this is that from Jace, that's paraphrased. Just what basically asking him, you did a good job in the third quarter, and the Wolves offense did well in the third quarter. And the quote from Ant that kind of went viral is, hell nah, I mean, well, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, he's like, I'm sorry I used a cuss word as in hell, because he's just so in his head about the swearing. He says, I don't know, man. That was a good brand of basketball, but it's not how I want to play, of course. I'm only 23, and I don't want to be passing the ball all night. At all. But the way they're guarding me, I think I have to. But to me, that's a very interesting quote, and it went viral, and it got kind of fairly trashed for it. So the dollar foul is Ant needs to be a better leader. I guess as we've kind of said all year, I'm going to go how. But I'm going to say something about this quote that I think is kind of, I think he's been a little bit like over the top trash for it. Because I think what he's in his head from this game, he didn't score very well. And it's clearly been like a months-long thing for him where he is not scoring well, he's not shooting well, and he's absolutely right that he needs to score better. Even if like I agree with him and I agree with Jace and everyone, like the way he played in that quarter was good, and they got good offense out of it. That's a true statement on its own. And Ant needed to score better in that game, and he needed to score better from a long stretch of games. And so to me, that's what is in his head. Now, the quote is bad because I don't need to tell you why. Like, it's like the Kobe mentality of not passing the ball or whatever. Like, but what I think is kind of unfair, it's not even unfair because he said the thing. So like, there's no fair or unfair. But like, what I think is a little bit I think if you re-asked him the question 2 seconds later, he said, I think I have to play that way. So like, in a certain sense, he knows like he has to get off the ball. And I thought we'll talk about the Detroit game. I thought despite only having 2 assists, I thought he did a good job getting off the ball when he had to. The shots went in, but like they were good shots too. And so I think a little bit of it is like, he's in his head. I mean, like the guy said hell and he's scared of getting fined for saying hell. Like he's just in his head in these media things. And so I do think like, I don't think he actually thinks like he needs to like Kobe style take over these games and not pass the ball as much as people said. What do you, I'm sure you saw the quote when it happened.
Yeah, I saw it, and it was frustrating. I mean, I would say this: his self-proclaimed uncle Ricky Rubio would be a little bit disappointed in that quote, saying that he doesn't want to be passing the ball all the time. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's Ant is always kind of known to be like, oh well, he'll say whatever is like on his mind, right? And so, like you said, in that game, he didn't shoot well, so he says that he wants to shoot better. Whatever. But at the same time, I mean, Ant does usually show a little bit more polish about always doing what he can to bring up his teammates and to say the right things, praise his teammates, and kind of deflect that and to deflect any type of praise that he gets, and then accept the criticism and responsibility of like, I need to do better, right? And so I think he kind of a little slip up, like you say, using his own head about it. But I'm gonna say, as far as the original topic of Ant needs to step up his leadership on and off the court, I'm going to say how. A month ago, we kind of had a similar question, like we need more from Ant. And I said that the Wolves don't need more from Ant, but they need a smarter Anthony Edwards. And now I'm saying they need more from him, especially as a leader. Jake Painting, he does the Howls and Growls, and he does great video breakdowns. He talks about that Boston game, about how his recent struggles and the play of his teammates, and more like the poor play of his teammates have kind of exacerbated his poor decision making, because he knows that Rudy's not going to catch it. He knows that maybe Mike's not going to be able to hit the open shot. Like because of that, he's making poor decisions, and he can't just choose to go supernova every game. I mean, we saw what happened even at the end of the Pistons game when they got within. I mean, I would say, with a little bit of a smile here, they got within 12 late in the fourth quarter, and they called a timeout. Pistons did, but then after that, I mean, like, he just started complaining to referees a lot. He was like turning the ball over. He was taking some poor shots. He was gassed. And so, that's not the way forward for that. But And we've seen a ton of complaining to the referees from him this year. He's obviously been fined for it, and refs are obviously taking notice. I mean, the amount of times that the camera cut to him, like with his hands up, talking to the refs. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't get teed up in that game, the Detroit game, because he was really going at it. He was really loud. And instead, Isaiah Stewart, I think, was the one that got a technical for just, like kind of clapping his hands together once. And, Ant knows about that. But I think, as far as that, complaining about refereeing, complaining about how the opponents are like defending him, skipping media availability. I mean, that's the part that I'm most concerned about during this recent stretch is that are we losing Ant mentally during this? And so I do think we need more from him. If you're going to be 23 years old, that's fine. You can be 23. You can be fun. You can say all the things you want, but you need to be a better leader. Like the whole Cat trade was, I mean, largely kind of based around like, look, Ant is ready to single-handedly and solely take over this team as a face on and off the court, in the locker room, in the media. Like he has to take over for that, and he just kind of hasn't been doing that.
I agree. And he is really trying. Like after the Sacramento game, like I think a big part of them turning that around after they started the season 8 and 10 was him calling out everyone in the locker room and himself included. Like they needed to play better, and they did. The stuff that frustrates me, both selfishly as a part-time reporter and just as a fan, is with like stuff like the Detroit game where he skips media. I get that it's not something he wants to do. That's fine, but like someone's got to do it, and so that like puts an extra burden on your teammates. Like the two people they talked to were Mike and Rudy. Like those were the two guys that didn't play.
The two guys that were benched, right?
But the guy that scored 53 points didn't talk, and I get he's frustrated. I get like it's not. I wasn't even there, so it didn't even affect me. So like to a certain extent, that's how it goes. But like. That's just like another little thing. Like, I think like one thing, he doesn't have to say anything. You just have to show up. Like, I almost like, and it's like, I don't want to tell him this because like I want him to keep talking, but like, you don't have to like, you are, as a player, you're required to talk. You're not required to talk well. You don't have to answer the questions well. You can just like one word answer everything. And pretty much.
Marshawn Lynch it. I'm just here, so I
pretty
don't
much.
get fined,
And like,
right?
I would prefer. I like the good answers, but like on a game like the 53 points, you just say, like, yeah, I scored well, but we lost. That's all that matters, and just answer that for every question. But
this is the last time I'll bring up Cat. Sorry, Ryan, for interrupting, but like, do you know how many times Cat has had to do media like after the many losses that he's had on the Timberwolves, like, and he always stepped up. And so I'm not trying to compare Ant to Cat, but I'm trying to compare Ant as a leader, like what he needs to do. Like you're the face, man. Like you got to do it. Now I will kind of throw him a bone. I don't know if this is a real reason, but I know that the Timberwolves kind of posted this video post game. Ant was talking to this fan. It was a little kid who was receiving cancer treatment and wanted to meet Ant after the game or whatever. And so they posted that video, and I do recall that like after that, Ant took a lot of time talking to the kid, and then they brought them into the locker room, and Ant was kind of showing the kid around. And the kid made like little wristbands and whatnot. I almost want to say during like Mike's media availability, or maybe it's during Rudy's or whoever it was. Like I thought I heard Ant with like the kid in the background, so maybe that's why he skipped media, was because he was doing that. That's kind of me throwing him a bone there, but yeah, I mean, but we've seen Ant skip it like on multiple occasions already this season. So
I mean, I wasn't there, but I don't think that those two things were related. I mean, it's great that Ant was doing that, but I don't think that was related to the media of it all. But I guess you'd have to ask Chris Hine, who was there. I was going to say Chris Finch, who I guess was also there in Detroit. But I guess we're kind of burying the lead here. Ant scored 53 points after a month plus of not scoring well. So I think like I agree with you. Like we need more leadership from him. But, like on the score, the man scored 53 points. Like at a certain point, like 53 points. Like why are the Wolves always losing when their player scores 50? And Cat had 60 last year, but like he scored 53 points extremely efficiently, which was just awesome in not every single offensive point in the game. And so like at a certain point, like that should have been a win based on that, because I thought his passing was fine too. Me rewatching the game a little bit, I didn't think like he was ball hogging. I thought he got off the ball well too, and like you mentioned, Jake Painting and Howls and Growls, he highlighted that in his video of that too. Like, I don't think it was like a ball hog performance personally, but Holler foul on this is a stepping stone to get him back on track. I'm gonna say Howell because like it's 53 points, and like it's not like the Pistons stopped guarding him like other teams were guarding him. They were still loading up on him, but like this is like the type of thing like I was talking about with like the poor quote he had was like he still needs to score and get off the ball, and like he needs to do better at that. And the one thing like what he did well in that Boston game was get off the ball. So he's focused on the scoring aspect of it. And like, so to me in this game, he did well getting off the ball. Now, his defense was come and go on a defensive night where the whole team was very poor defensively. So like, there's still that to improve. But again, ultimately, if you score 53 points, like the loss can't be on you, to be honest, unless you shoot like 60 times, but he didn't. Yeah. So what do you think? Holler foul and being back on track.
Well, now I feel bad because I was gonna say foul, but I feel like you kind of convinced me that should be a foul. Now, look, I'll say this. I said in the beginning that it was fun to watch him go off, and the rest of the team certainly wasn't helping him. So, like you said, he wasn't ball hogging, taking shots because certainly no one else was really making shots other than a little stretch in the third by Julius Randle. But aside from that, I mean, the reason I was gonna say foul was because I don't feel like this is a recipe for long-term success. Like Ant should need to be scoring 50+ points a game, obviously. But like you said, Chris Finch did praise him in the post game about he was going quicker and he was going in the direction of the ball more. We were able to see him get his perimeter shot going after he's been struggling a little bit recently. So I think that's great as well too. I mean, I think to me, like I'm so focused on like the leadership like aspect of it. So I feel like, maybe I guess you could say, yeah, him kind of taking over going 1-on-5 was leadership in some form. But yeah, I mean, he gassed himself out late. And again, it's not his fault, right? He was in there and he was doing everything he could. But I was kind of looking back. Obviously, we saw it in real time, but everything that registered in the box score after I was actually rewatching it as well too. Like after he hit his last three, I think they cut it to 12 or whatever. There's a timeout shortly after he came back in. And then Cade drew an offensive foul off of him where he was kind of complaining about it, but Cade was just a little bit outside the restricted area, kind of a careless drive. And then he kind of hacks Ron Holland on a drive after and, gives him 2 points. And then I think the worst thing was when, him and oh my gosh, how am I forgetting his name? Malik Beasley. Him and Malik were kind of going at it. Obviously, they have a friendship or they had a friendship when they were teammates, but he went ISO against Malik Beasley, and he got stripped, just straight stripped by him, like picked like a booger, and led an uncontested layup. Then he missed a 3, and then at that point, you can kind of see him really like going for it. He went for like this huge, like I called it a JaVale McGee inspired dunk attempt, which just kind of wasn't close. Then he had a nice dump off to Rudy, and then he took that weird Kareem hook shot where he was like, "All right, I'm trying to get 53." They missed a 3-pointer as well, and then finally like that last layup that he made on like a meaningless possession to kind of score that, it was almost like Ricky Davis-esque, like trying to get that triple double where it's like, all right, let me get this. So anyways, yeah, so that was a little bit frustrating, kind of seeing him tail off at the end. But yeah, I think it was a good stepping stone.
I agree with like your point that it's like not long-term sustainable, but like I think the not long-term sustainable part was like every other part of the team. Like obviously he's not going to score 53 points every night, but like be nice to get him back to scoring close to 30 or 30 points more regularly. Like that was his second 30-point game in over a month. Like that's just, they need more from him. And like we've talked about, like them needing more from him is on everyone on the team. It's not just on him. Like he's not getting put in great spots. Now, has he dealt with the poor spots well? I don't think so. But like, it's not just on him. It's on the entire organization, top to bottom. Like you need to get your best player playing well. And it doesn't totally give him a pass because he's the one not playing well or was not playing well. Hopefully it's like a past tense. But yeah, they needed to get him back on track, and God willing, 53 points will do that because it did look like closer to the player that that we've been expecting this year. But ultimately, Wolves are kind of back in what feels like rock bottom, 17-17. The outcry to change something is certainly growing. Chris Finch had some interesting quotes after the game. I often watch these on the road. I often watch them on the Wolves YouTube channel. If you guys like want to watch these, sometimes there's great stuff in there. Sometimes there's not. It's kind of the fun of watching some of the stuff, but Finch had some interesting quotes. He mentioned that we always ask him about the starting lineup. Probably true. And then he said, if I felt like the Magic Bully was changing the starting lineup, I would have done that already. I don't think I'm being particularly stubborn. There's a chain reaction to everything you do. There are other combinations, other things that go on the floor that are just important, if not more so than the starting lineup. Which I think is something like I've kind of been saying in a certain extent. Like, yes, maybe changing the starting lineup would be beneficial, but ultimately it's like more about who closes and where like each guy comes in the rotation. So in that sense, I agree with Finch. But like the question, foul or foul, Chris Finch is correct in not changing the starting lineup. To me, that's foul. Not because I think there's like, I agree with him. It's not a magic bullet. They're not going to switch out the starting lineup and now they're back to the team we saw last year. That's not going to happen. But I just think you're so overdue for some sort of change. And not because I think it's going to solve anything, but just like to wake people up, like just to do change it for change's sake. We're at that point. Like just do something new because it's just so frustrating. Because like if I were to think like who is their best 5 players, like right now, not like in a bigger picture sense, who is like, or maybe who is their best, like the best 5-man lineup they can put out there. Like I think 3 of their current starters aren't in that lineup. Because like right now, I don't think Mike, Jaden, or Rudy are in that starting lineup, and that doesn't even include Julius, who is like who people have called to get out of the starting lineup the entire year. Like I think like their best 5-man lineup is probably like Dante, Ant, Nikhil, Nas, and Julius. I think like that would be their best, and maybe like you could do Rudy instead of Julius. You could throw Mike in instead of Nah or something like certainly like the more we sit here with it, I just think like playing Jaden, Julius, and Rudy together is just untenable. It is not a quality lineup. There's just not nearly as much spacing, and especially if Mike is not going to be close to the player he was last year. I don't think he'll continue to be this bad, but like that is just not a lineup that's going to be successful. And maybe ultimately like that, like those are their 5 most talented players probably. Like they need something there, but like I don't know, they just got to change something.
Yeah, I'm gonna say foul for this as well too. I've been a big believer in Finch's decision to leave the starters as it is up until now. I think it's time. The season isn't over, obviously, but they continue playing with this lack of energy and urgency from the starting lineups. It will be over, I guarantee you. He's talked about how great Randall's point forward role has kind of looked, but that's really regulated Mike to being a spot up shooter in the corners. And as we know, I mean, he had that little blip against OKC where it ended with a baked in 3 and the Wolves went up 12. That lead that lasted for like I think maybe 1 possession. He's shown that he just doesn't have that ability right now. And I think if that's the case, like if you're not going to take Julius out and you love him playing point forward, then you can't have a point who can't shoot, which currently is Mike Conley again, until he proves that, he's whether it's his wrist or his legs or whatever it is, the secret juice that he needs to kind of get back. Until he gets there, he shouldn't be starting because again, now you have 3, 3.5, I would say, like non-floor spacers next to Ant. I think which is tough. So I think if that's the case, if you don't start Mike, Finch mentioned that the bench didn't play as well as they usually do against that game against Detroit, and that change rotation would create a chain reaction, like he said. Well, I think the Wolves rotation deserves a chain reaction explosion right now. Randall maybe going out for Nas is what everyone's been calling for. Like, I'm not opposed to trying that, even though I don't know if that's gonna solve everything. But like you said, I also think that maybe Mike or Jaden need to come out. There needs to be more reliable shooting, and Dante obviously, he's hot and cold a little bit, but obviously he's been a lot more hot than cold recently. He needs to be in there as well too. So you let Ant, you let Julius handle the ball, but you need to put shooters out there, and Nah and Dante are your best shooters right now. So you need to put them out there. So I think it's time to do that. And you've talked about this a lot, Ryan, about how it's not always about who starts, but about who finishes. But I mean, I think the starts that we've gotten have been so poor. I know, like against Boston and OKC, like they did pretty good. They were kind of matching shot for shot, but like especially against Detroit, when you're playing against a team that is in theory like a tiers below you, and you're it wasn't even that they weren't making shots. The energy level was so bad from them. And I think that's really what it is. You need to inject a little bit of energy. You need to allow the young guys to get out there and maybe have someone play with a little bit more passion and energy out there. So I think it's time for a
Yeah,
change.
I agree, but I do sympathize with Finch, and he kind of mentioned it, like the chain reaction. Like, I just think about, like, okay, what's the easiest? The easiest switch is probably like taking out Mike and putting in Dante or Nikhil. Well, we kind of saw that already. Mike's missed a couple games, and like how many times did like whoever's bringing up the ball just get ripped, or they can't get into their offense because they don't have a point guard out there. So like, there's that chain reaction. If they take out Gobert, like they don't have enough defense on the floor. So like, where that's
Right.
like, that comes with the chain reaction. If they take out Jaden, do they have enough perimeter defense? If they take out Randall, do they have enough just like talent on the floor, like playmaking, scoring talent? Like, all of these potential starting lineup changes come with their own pitfalls. And so like, that just makes me wonder, like, maybe this team is just flawed from top to bottom, just flawed.
Yeah.
Again, I just think their talent, like, they're gonna, like, I just would still be surprised if they miss the playoffs. I still think like they can be a top 6 seed. Anthony Edwards has always been great in the playoffs. Maybe they can win a playoff series. Like, I think that's all on the table for them. But like, just like looking at them compared to OKC, Boston, Cleveland, New York, like, it's hard to see it right now. But
Yeah.
I guess we can move into Apex Alpha. It's gonna be hard to find one given they haven't won a game since we last did a pod. I'll just go with Julius Randle just because I almost said, like, because people give him so much crap. I thought he's been playing either well or fine, somewhere in between. Had some nice games. Defense has been not as bad. I just think we know what we're getting from Julius at this point, and maybe that's just bad. I just think he's playing better than, like, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, we put all the weight on this whole season seemingly on him, or the blame. So it's a half-hearted Apex Alpha, but that's mine. What about you?
I mean, I appreciate you picking Julius Randle for that. It's just, and I will add this, is that when Julius Randle isn't playing well, it's very loud. It's kind of like when
Yeah.
Rudy isn't playing well. Like when he was playing it, his worst game of the week obviously was against OKC, and there was that play where he
Okay.
got stripped
Let me
like three
let me come
times
in on that play quick.
by
Go watch that play again. The other 4 people on the court are standing dead still. That is as much on
Sure.
the other 4 people on the court as it was on Julius. What, like, obviously the turnover's bad, but like, he had nowhere to go. So like, it's not like there's even when Julius is playing bad, it's deeper than just him. But sorry to take your spot.
Sure. Yeah. No. That's fair. I think but like I said, it's loud, right? It's very like, it's very like
Rudy-esque.
easy to go viral, or like even that. I think right, Rudy-esque, right? Even in that play, I think it was against Boston. I think it was Derek White, where like he gambled for a steal, and like it was like a. I mean, I would say it was a good gamble, but he got like his hand on the ball. He kind of deflected it, but then like he kind of ran this like circle around Derek White to kind of half-heartedly get a hand up. He was obviously tired at that point, and so that looks optically that looks bad. Where it's like, oh, I mean, he was kind of there. He had a soft contest, I guess. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I think like you said, there wasn't one player who was like perfect all week, and so that's why for me, my Apex Alpha is Josh Minot. He missed Detroit's game with an illness, but maybe it's because of how sick he was playing against the Celtics that he missed the Detroit game. But it's as much a compliment to Josh as it is an indictment of the rest of his teammates. I mean, between these 3 games, each one of the main players, the main rotation players, played really terribly at least once or twice, and so there doesn't seem to be a tangible reason for why Josh Minot shouldn't get more minutes while he's out there. Josh Minot played well against OKC, and then especially in Boston, he played really, really well. People were talking about, I know you and Andrew talks about, like, well, maybe he should play a little bit more later on, in the game, but someone Jaden had to come back in, and so I think he's injecting, as I said earlier in our last Hour Fouls, that he's injecting energy and activity. And that's really what I feel like that starting lineup needs. I'm not saying start Josh Minot, but just that type of player, that young energy that he needs. I mean, we saw that Detroit is filled with like a team full of energy and youth and athletic type of guys, and the Wolves really struggled to match that. And so I think Finch needs to continue to find him more opportunities, not just for him, but maybe some of the other younger guys. Hopefully, Rob. I know if y'all didn't see, Rob was ruled out. It was his 20th birthday a couple of days ago, but then just prior to that, they ruled him out for a week or two with the same kind of right ankle ailment that he's been dealing with. And so hopefully, when he comes back, Josh, Rob, they could get worked in a little bit more, because we've seen flashes from him, and I really feel like that's what's missing missing is that energy.
Yeah,
and
they really
effort
could have
right
used
now.
Josh in that Detroit game. I think not that I think it would have changed the outcome his
Yeah.
12-minute stint, but like, they probably could have used a little bit more energy, like you said, from Josh Minott. But yeah, that'll bring us to Prey of the Week. Who did the Wolves make their prey? And I'm going to kind of stick with our theme here. The Wolves made Wolves fans their prey because who buckets? That Detroit game is just brutal. I think Minnesota sports can just get out of Detroit because true brutal losses in Detroit for the local teams here. But I just kind of think about the organization just kind of feels a bit dysfunctional right now. From top to bottom, just a lot going on. The ownership thing just looms. It looms as a gigantic thing with this franchise. I don't know who's going to prevail. I've seen Mark and Alex at these games. Obviously, Glenn's not there, but that has as much to do with his health and his hip surgery as much as I don't think that's a good indication of the court case. But yeah, just from like top to bottom, the ownership stuff looms. I don't know how much that had to play. There's a half decent chance that Glenn just was cheap and wanted to trade Cat. I have no reason to believe that. I have no information on that, but could be possible. Connolly hasn't done a good enough job this year. Trading Cat just hasn't worked out. Whether, again, might not be his fault, but just hasn't worked out. Finch can take blame off his play too, but obviously I think he would tell you he hasn't done a good enough job this year, and then just countless players haven't played well enough. So it's just like top to bottom, this thing isn't working. And I guess you just hope that the poor play isn't sustainable and they can turn it around. But I don't know who is your prey of the week.
Well, another casualty this last week was our Vibes leader, Dacian Nix. Unfortunately, Dacian Nix was cut. If you didn't see the news, he was waived by the Wolves because they put a waiver claim in for the Pacers' second-round draft pick, Tristan Newton, who's a 23-year-old point guard, 6'4", 6'5" point guard. But it sucks for Dacian because it feels like there's no reason other than making space for how he was cut. He was, like I said, very much a Vibes captain. He did the whole, pointing celebration that kind of started with him. And even when he played for the Iowa Wolves, I mean, he's played there for now 4 years, which is kind of crazy. I mean, he played there before he was even drafted when he played for the G League Ignite. But even this year, I mean, he's been pretty dominant when he's played for Iowa. So again, him being cut was kind of sad, unless maybe he asked for opportunity elsewhere. That's apparently what kind of happened with Tristan Newton in the Pacers, is that he wanted to get a better opportunity elsewhere. I don't know why Minnesota would be that, but clearly Tim Connolly kind of jumped on that opportunity to pick him up. So doesn't really impact the main squad, losing Dacian Nix, except I'm sure Luka Garza is going to be sad that the whole Burton Ernie duo is getting broken up a little bit there. But yeah, I'm with you though on the Wolves fan being the prey as well too, because it has been tough. And again, for me, I'm having this whole like rant at the beginning of our pod talking about what it means to be a fan, and that's what the Wolves have done to us. Right now we're reconsidering what it means to be a fan now, and that's how it's tough. But you and Andrew talked about it last week too, or a couple days ago, about how what was it, 2 years ago during Rudy's first year, I mean, they were
Yep.
what, 16 and 17 right around the turn of the new year, and that's when they lost to Detroit. And Ryan, time is a flat circle because we're here again. We're 17 and 16, so we have one more win
I
than
saw
one more
this
loss
Detroit game coming
compared to
the
2 years
whole
ago.
time. It just was
Yeah,
stuck out like a sore thumb.
right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the way Cole Anthony's playing for the Orlando Magic, I'm like scared to see when the Orlando Magic is going to be playing
Yeah,
the
they're
Minnesota
pretty hurt
Timberwolves,
right now,
because
though.
I'm pretty sure we're going to get another. Yeah, I know, but Cole Anthony is still on that team hitting game winners. So, all that to say is that, yeah, it's been rough. So it's easy to pick a lot of people to be the prey, but I think all of us
Yeah, I
are
do
the
think
praise.
it's pretty apt that as the vibes of the whole team are just off, that Dacian Nix, the vibes king, was let go. I do think that they must
Yeah,
see something in this in the guy they picked up, just because like if you like if you just thought if you didn't think he was anything, you would like you had to cut a guy to pick him up. So you're gonna try to avoid cutting
right.
people if you can. Um, so maybe I don't know, project, something to think about.
We'll see, man. That's where a lot of us OG Wolves fans have
Yeah,
thrived, And I know,
I'm
Ryan, you're
I'm
not the
not.
biggest fan of doing this, but I I am though. I am. I'm like, dude, Jalen Clark just scored 32 points. He hit 6 3-pointers. And I'm like, oh, we got Tristan Newton. We signed the Iowa Wolves signed Omari Bailey. You know, he had some hype going from high school to college, but he played at UCLA recently. Most notably known because Drake was seen with Omari Bailey's mom at a high school game many years ago. But anyways, yes, I mean, I love following like these
Yep.
little storylines because again, that's where when the Wolves in the 91% of the time when we've been bad, we had to kind of attach ourselves to something like that. So it's very easy for me to kind of
And it's
revert
not just
back
the
to that.
Wolves with the Twins. I'm not a big like baseball prospect guy. I know a lot of people. I mean, I'm pretty knowledgeable about the Twins, so if you ask me about their top 10 prospects, I can probably tell you something. But like, some people love to follow the prospects and get hyped about like anytime some random prospect hits a home run, like people are all about it. I'm not that type of guy either, so it's not a Wolves specific thing. I just kind of think like the success rate about Nas Reed is like I appreciate that because it's so rare. I don't. That's like a 99th percentile outcome.
Sure.
Like if Newton like ever plays a single meaningful rotation minute, like that'd be a successful outcome. And so it's like it's hard for me to like get into it until like it becomes closer to real.
I have faith, Ryan, because Wendell Moore Jr. once played significant minutes for a Timberwolves team. And I was so scared that Wendell Moore was going to play. He plays on the Pistons right now. I was so scared he was going to play against the Wolves yesterday in garbage time and he was going to hit like
Mm-hmm.
5 3-pointers in a row or something like that. We're going to be like, oh man, we paid a pick to get off Wendell Moore. Like, and now he's hitting threes against
Yeah.
us. But yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that Knicks game where Cat cooked him was Matt Ryan coming off the bench and cooking him too. I was waiting for that.
Yeah. Good old Matt Ryan.
Well, we can move on to two words. Our two words to describe the current state of the Wolves, and my two words have kind of been are going to line up with the theme of this pod. Minnesota sports are my two words, mostly because of the Vikings, who have had this fantastic season, 14-2, and in the biggest game, I mean, I kind of thought it like the biggest regular season game in as you can possibly have in the NFL, biggest game multiple years for the Vikings. They play the worst game of their season. And I say Minnesota sports because I just saw a lot of like angst and woe is me about the team. And like, they're still in the playoffs. They're still favored to win their first round playoff game. Like, I just am kind of tired of it. I'm tired of the woe is me. I'm tired of like just the angst. It's just that feeling. I have it too. So like, I don't, but like, just like the need to like spew it on the internet. And maybe that's on me. Maybe I got to get off the internet. But like, I'm like the stuff like gets me is like the pre-mad, like, oh, we're just going to lose. Like, yeah, okay. I mean, they're not going to, the odds are they will not win the Super Bowl or not get to the Super Bowl. Like, it's easy to do that. If you do that for every team, you're going to be right 31 out of 32 times in the NFL's case or 29 out of 30 in the NBA's case. But like, I don't know, like the game sucked. That it doesn't have to be bigger than that. And if they lose next week, then yeah, go on your rant about how they suck or whatever. But like, I don't know. Like, let's get mad when their season actually ends because they play bad. Like, they've played great all year. They stunk, and to a certain extent, the Wolves are like that too. Like, it stinks, but like, we don't need to like the stuff where it's like, well, now Ant's gonna leave. It's like, no, like that's not a realistic thing to be worrying about right now. So,
Hey, in truth, Ryan, remember we used to say, yeah, well, it's not like Kevin Love's gonna leave. It's not like Kevin Garnett's gonna. It's not like Karl Anthony Towns is gonna leave. And then
none of
some
those
them
players
did
left,
leave,
by the
but
way.
they got traded. So right. They got
The only
traded.
person that was like,
So.
I
But
mean,
anyways,
KG wanted to stay. Cat certainly wanted to stay, and Kevin Love was
Kevin Love
going to
was
leave, and they obviously
but he got lowballed. So yeah,
that was
kinda,
the closest thing to leaving. He would have left.
But, right. Yeah. But I will say, right. I mean, I think it is, and I am guilty of this too. You know, being pretty angry about stuff. But I think it's a defense mechanism. You know, that fans have. They've been scarred and they're hurt, and they want to be like, oh, well, I know we're gonna lose, so that when they don't, they're like, oh, cool, we didn't lose. But when they do, that's when they get really annoyed. Like, I knew this season was going nowhere. I knew we weren't gonna win a title. It's like, yeah, we probably weren't gonna win one just by bringing Cat back either. You know,
it's obviously a defense mechanism, and I have it too. Trust me, I have it too.
Right.
And I'm just saying, it's lame. That it's like I know what it is, and it sucks. That's my point.
Right. Yeah, like go ahead and replay the first 15 minutes of this pod, listeners, and like we talk about this. Like it's
Go
okay
listen
to
to
know that's
whatever
not
pod.
gonna
Go
result
listen to
in a
like
championship.
Dane's pod or John Krasinski's
Right.
pod after they lost to Phoenix at the end of the regular season. Go read the Twitter. Go read the Twitter replies
Yeah.
there. Like guarantee you. Well, this whole
Right.
season's like, and then what happened? Like just chill out.
Yep. So my 2 words, Ryan, are prove it. The Wolves have to prove that there's a chance for them to turn things around. And we saw the classic late comeback attempts that we've seen all season, mainly against the OKC and Boston games, where they made a late comeback attempt. But their current lull is reminiscent, as we mentioned earlier, their previous 3-game losing streaks that they've had. They've answered those 3-game losing streaks with at least 2 wins in a row or more. And it's time for them to prove it. Are they just a 500 team, or at minimum, or are they destined to be worse than that? They have to prove it to us now. I mean, they do have a couple scheduled games coming up that are winnable. It's not the easiest schedule ever. I mean, they have the Clippers tomorrow. Kawhi had just come back, and they played really, really well recently. But they have their first back-to-back in a while. After that, they play at New Orleans, where they are kind of a dumpster fire right now. Then they have the Magic, who, again, I hate that I talked about Cole Anthony, because that means I'm speaking into existence. But we're playing Cole Anthony later this week. They have they have 4 games in 6 nights here. So, and then there's not much rest after that. They have alternating games and then back-to-back at the end of next week as well, too. So, they're going to tell us a lot. There's not that much of that early season where, we had like a 4-day break, or we had like a 3 to 4 day break after a couple games. Like, they're going to be playing a lot right now. So it's time for them to prove.
Yep, exactly. And like their schedule gets tough mostly because of the rest, but like they have winnable games, like at home against the Clippers. Just like Kawhi's back, and that changes things. But like New Orleans can't seem to win a game. Orlando's hurt. Memphis has been up and down, playing well in the season. Go to Washington. I'll be at that game in Washington. Annoying part about the Vikings losing is now they play that same night of that game. So that annoyed me as well, because now I have to cover the game and watch the Vikings. But so those are all winnable games. I mean, theoretically, the Detroit game was a winnable game. But I agree with you. At some point, gotta start either winning games or show that you have something, because the status quo isn't fun.
Or prove it, or prove that it's over. Prove that this isn't going to work, so
we can punt at the deadline. Yeah,
I haven't lost faith in. Yeah, exactly, right. So they have to prove something here. So
that was a very angsty pod. Kind of representative of where we're at. These 3-game losing streaks just kind of suck the life out of everything. But again, going back to 2 years, every time they'd hit rock bottom, they'd respond with a couple wins. They did that 2 years ago, and I would guess they'll do that again. It's just a matter of when. Hopefully Anthony Edwards can score 54 points, and we'll hopefully that'll be enough.
Let's go.
All right, but for me and Leo, that'll do it for us. Thanks for listening. I'll have another pod later this week, and then Leo and I will be back next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Get home safe. Drive safe.